So the thing is that when you start delegating this stuff, do you think there will be any time that you run your law firm, in any instance you can delegate sales to another team?
You must delegate sales to another team, but I don't think that you should totally abandon it because you are the best voice for your company. You are. Now, you don't always have to be the face of the company, but I don't think that you should totally abandon the sales portion. But there are parts of sales that are that you can automate and you can duplicate with someone else other than yourself. So depending on the type of law firm that you have, there are so many things that other people can go out there and do well for you to promote it and to bring business in, but you also need to be part of that face.
Welcome back to my podcast. My next guest is known as the Legacy Architect. Scherrie Prince is an attorney, a prolific author, and a world class speaker who helps entrepreneurs and families move from just making money to build a secure fortress. So, thank you so much for coming to my show, Sherry.
Thank you so much for the invite. I'm excited for the conversation.
Sherry, the thing is, there's so much about you that my intro would always be less if I speak about it. Could you share exactly how you help entrepreneurs and their families making the right decisions?
Sure. And I start by telling folks I am from a small town in Mississippi. And a lot of what I do was bred from growing up in a family, a blended family, and with my grandparents. And so I learned very early the importance of planning. My grandparents passed away, no will, no trust. And for years, there was disputes about ownership of property and assets. So what I do in my practice, I help entrepreneurs merge their business plan with their estate plan to really build a moat around their assets. So when they, pass away, that their family is really not burdened with trying to figure out, what to do with their business, what happens to mom and dad's home. And those are the types of things that I prioritize for families.
Right. That's an amazing thing that you're doing. And I think it helps a lot of people when they make the right decision in this particular scenario. Sherry, you have been on global stages, and I think you've spoken to thousands of people. So, when you're working with, say, you're speaking to, let's say, a group of 500 people, and then a lot of people do get inspired from you and they want to, get in touch with you, they want to ask certain questions or may have certain inquiries. How do you really manage all those inquiries? And do you have a qualification system in place?
Definitely. One thing that I learned the hard way was that no matter how much you want to help someone, sometimes one to one is not always the most effective way. Sometimes one to many is better. So I started with doing a challenge about maybe 4 years ago. It was a monthly challenge and it was free, and where you can come get advice. I would show you step by step how to start the process from the most basic level, and then take you up to a hierarchy of just really depending on what type of business you had or business aspirations. But it took a moment. So the challenge was the very first thing that I did with one to many. And over time in my firm, we implemented systems for intake. We implemented systems for workflow, and those things really helped my clients move through the process with ease and assurance. And it really allowed me to scale my business because you're not always getting me directly, but you're getting the results because we were more efficient.
Right, exactly. And basically, when somebody, and I'm going to come down to law firms, suppose somebody is running a small to medium law firm. I mean, medium would be smaller to medium, I'd say. And you have a lot of intake coming in. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to know exactly who would I want to work with, right? So, suppose I have 100 people who have filled a form on my website or called my office. I want to understand on what scale should I put them or how do I mark them so I can be sure that they're not going to waste my time and they're going to pay for my services, or they're not just obnoxious clients?
So, one thing that we've done in our business, and we really do use AI across my business, from intake down to drafting solutions for people. I have several projects built in AI, and some of those help us screen those intake forms, but it took time because one, we had to scrub information that was personal. So we stopped putting certain information on our intake forms. And now, as we get certain forms, if we're uncertain if they are a good fit, because we do have a very boutique type of service that we offer people, sometimes we're able to look at the questionnaire and say, well, you know what, this may not be a good fit, but we still follow up. And if we have someone that we may be able to service, the question may be, what all do they need? And so we have a tiered system that we look at with AI to help us really pair the best solutions and strategies for those clients. But I think, and this is not tech or estate planning or business planning, marketing. What is your message? So we have gotten better over time with our message. So when you look at our materials, you can kind of see, well, she's an attorney, but I don't think she's my attorney because she doesn't really do what I need to have done. And the messaging portion has really helped us a lot.
Right. And I think that is because you are basically focusing on one niche rather than many niches altogether, right? So, how did you decide that you're going to work on one niche when there are thousands of people looking for other services?
Of it had to do with the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, we had a more general practice. And even though estate planning, business planning, that was my first love, we helped anybody pretty much who came in, with the exception of some disciplines. There are just some things that we don't do. And so when I really had an opportunity to slow down during the pandemic, I began to focus a lot more. And I thought about, who is the population of people that I love to help? And they were families, small business owners, big entrepreneurs. And like, what are the types of things that I really like to do? And what am I most effective at? And when I started really working in that capacity and in my gifts, I really saw a difference in the way that the practice grew and the way that I was able to be more present for clients.
Yes, and uh, I think that also enabled you to generate more content in depth on one niche rather than more, right?
It definitely did. And, you know, being a jack of all trades is not always great in every setting. I think if you're able to pick a specialty and just really drill down, you can be more effective when you go deep instead of wide. And that really benefits your client because you have a certain expertise that the rest of the market may not have. So we've really enjoyed that growth.
Right. Comparing to the rest of the market, obviously, every market gets saturated at one point, right? So if there are like 10 estate attorneys, there might be 20 next year or even more, right? How do you differentiate yourself so that you always are seen to people as the go-to expert rather than the other firms who are competing in this space?
And that's such a great question because a lot of it is customer service. Just like there's a gas station almost on every corner. So I can go to BP, I can go to Shell, or I can go to the marathon. Where do I feel that I'm the most appreciated? Who has really taken the time and maybe given me some white glove service at their office? And so aside from having a very solid legal foundation and being able to deliver things, because anyone who has a law degree can specialize and open up a law firm. But we really try to focus on that customer service aspect and that white glove service so that people remember us. They come back, they send referrals, and they really feel like they are strategic partners with us in their growth.
Right, exactly. And the way you've actually explained that it really depends on how you have actually made them feel when they were connected with you. But then, as far as my limited knowledge is, I believe that most of the time, estate planning is just one and done service, right? But then, obviously, children born, there's like different parts of the family. Is there a way that you use so that you stay connected with everybody, and you basically serve the legacy of the whole family.
Well, and I want to slightly disagree with you. I never look at it as one and done, because people get married, you get divorced. If you have a business, an exit is not always selling your business. An exit can be a bankruptcy, a reorganization, a partnership. It could be a retirement. So there are so many different types of exits. I recommend that you speak with your, legal professional at least once a quarter, minimally once a year, because even the
Mm,
laws change. And so I take
mm,
these opportunities to educate my clients about changes in the law, opportunities they may have. Especially if you have a blended family as well, there are so many opportunities that may be available for planning with your business and your estate with a blended family. So I would say once a quarter, and we just kind of keep those contacts fresh with a newsletter. I have some annual training that I do virtually, so you can come get replays, doesn't cost anything, and some in-person things that we do once a year.
yeah, because I believe if you have a sort of a central system where you can have different touch points for clients, like if you have built a client portal and that sends an email once in a while, maybe invites for a podcast webinar, that actually stays you connected with everybody, right? But then my question is, I was talking to another lawyer who believed in value based pricing. And he said, what I do is I basically offer a service, it's monthly and it's paid, rather than just taking one time big amount. So people stay connected with me and so on and so forth. But actually, I asked him this question, but I couldn't get the right answer that I'm going to ask you. If you want to stay connected with people and you're asking for, like, for example, $800, so stay connected with you, you keep on giving them advice whenever they need. Don't you think that model is a failure in the long term because people can just buy a $20 subscription from AI? Do that.
So I would never align my legal strategy with AI exclusively. So if there are business owners who are out there who are doing that, I think that they definitely are at a disadvantage because AI can hallucinate, and there's a human touch that you need depending on what jurisdiction you're in. Like, for instance, even though I am physically right now located in Mississippi, depending on where you are and the advice that you need, AI has certain parameters, but there are just things that I know about law, depending on your situation, that's not cookie cutter. So when you look at a subscription model, and it really depends on your discipline as well, I don't think that's the best thing for my firm because we have other tools and ways that we stay engaged. But if you
Right.
have maybe a practice that is collections, or you have another type of practice that is not heavy in terms of trial practice or motion practice, because I'm actually a
Mm.
trial attorney as well. It may be okay, but I really do feel like sometimes based on the level of planning, because we do some very high level planning. So for the types of clients that I have, value pricing may not be the most efficient. And I don't charge for everything. We do have an hourly based model as well, in addition to some flat fees. But for, certain clients that have that high level planning, they're able just to pick the phone up without the expectation for an hourly fee or a subscription.
But you do believe that the clients need to be at least informed what they're getting, right? And do you think going through the AI is the right way to get informed, or is it like read a book or an article or something like a video that you've made or a webinar to join a webinar or a show or some networking event where they can know about what they're gonna get?
Think that AI is a decent discovery point. So if I'm someone who has zero knowledge about a subject and I may be interviewing an attorney so that I can engage with them, I think that that is a great starting point. Like, what sort of attorney do I need for this type of situation? What sort of a question should I ask? What outcomes are available to me. So as a very preliminary matter, I think that AI would be okay, but not for solutions. Some people use TikTok Facebook, Instagram for the same thing. I think you really need to engage people who have made it their life's work to find out the answers for you and craft solutions for you.
Exactly. So if that applies to people, right? The way you're saying that, okay, AI can sometimes hallucinate, right? A firm who uses AI everywhere, uses in workflows, drafting, why should I trust that firm? Because my case might be hallucinated too.
So you have a difference between using AI and the ethical use of AI. We use AI in almost every facet of our business, but we use it ethically. So if I use it to gather information, um, we do a lot of deed drafting. And as part of the deed drafting, we request copies of the original deeds from our clients. Well, some of those have very long legal descriptions. Instead of us typing all of those out, we'll feed the deed to AI, ask them to reproduce the legal description, and we check it for verification. Well, that cuts down on the amount of time that it takes us in the office to do certain administrative tasks. So I really think that we need to distinguish between the ethical use and relying on it for a solution or a replacement for staff.
Right. So let's suppose I want to use a similar sort of AI, and I see another competitor of mine using, and he tells me that, okay, I'm using a certain AI. Uh, should I just jump on that, or is there something I should know before I sign up for any service like that?
Definitely read the terms and conditions. And even though the small print is small, you will likely find out that if you lose data, that's going to be on you, and it's going to be up to you more than likely to address that with your client. You'll find that there may be some sharing of information, some storage of data. So those are the things that you really need to look at, and look at your agreement with your clients on what information is confidential and how you protect it. Part of what I do as well is I try to educate people on the protection of their confidential information and their IP as a part of their asset protection strategy. Because once you upload things to the cloud, you don't know where it goes. You don't know who has access to it. And it's just kind of up there forever. So part of your asset protection plan is how you protect your confidential information and your intellectual property. And hiring professionals who do not have a plan for that can put that in jeopardy. So those are also some of the questions that you would ask the professionals that you work with, your attorneys, your accountants, all of those people that have your birthday, your social security number, just the basic components to possibly steal your identity, they have that information. So how do they store your confidential information?
Right, exactly. Now, the other big problem is that I want to discuss with you. I'm using a tool that helps me qualify people. Then I'm gonna use a tool that helps me draft. There's another tool that helps me do the accounting. Right? How do I basically make them talk to each other?
So some of these tools have APIs that allow them to talk to each other. And for the tools that do not, you have programs like Zapier, because we use that in my office as well. So you may use something like Zapier that will connect some of these tools that don't have APIs that work together. But even with doing that, you still have to be careful that the way that you're connecting them and the way that they share information does not conflict with your internal policy for safeguarding your client's information.
Hmm, exactly. So, do you kind of agree with me that lawyers are great advisors, but they don't listen to the right advice a lot of times?
So I'm going to tell you something that one of my law professors told me. He was like, attorneys love to say this. It depends. So, um, there are times that, and I think some of it is personality driven. You know, I think certain personalities navigate to certain professions, and then you just have people individually that have these personality quirks. So I would agree with you on that. In this instance, I would agree.
Yeah. So I talk to a lot of people who try to sell their stuff, which might be really, really important and genuine to use for somebody as a lawyer. But they say if we send them an email, that's going into spam, right? They just click, they don't read, they put it in spam. And if we call them, they don't listen, right? So why do you think lawyers do that?
Well,
Why can't they test things out? What's stopping them?
I don't know so much that it's that we cannot test things out. I think that some people believe, well, they don't distinguish between access and information. And I'll illustrate that. The information that you have may be my phone number or my email address. And I think that some people believe because you have the information that you're entitled to access to me. But in my office, we have systems. So just because you send me an email or make a phone call does not guarantee the result that you're looking for. And I think that maybe sometimes solicitors need to look at these systems that are in place. So we have an intake system for clients and an intake system for solicitors. And if you try to bypass that system, because most attorneys are busy, and depending on the type of practice that you have, my inbox is reserved for communications between judges, attorneys, and other third party vendors. We have a client portal that's for clients. I don't receive client information on my email at all. Excuse me. So if somebody who is not, in this class of people and they're sending me stuff to my email, I do disregard it because we have a system. And when it moves outside of that system, it kind of takes attention away from the clients and the other people that the system was set up for. So that is what, in my office, how we kind of navigate through some of that.
Exactly, and I think that's the best way to approach a law firm if you're trying to, if you're in legal tech, you want to help them go through their office. Probably that's where they're going to listen to you. But then, for a lawyer's perspective, right? A lot of lawyers do not want to come in front of the camera, and they feel like that it's very hard. So there could be multiple reasons, but why are you on the camera? What motivated you?
I'm going to be very honest. It took me years, even though I talk to people for a living. And I have a podcast. And before I did my podcast, I started out doing audio only because I just, I don't like to be on camera. It took a while for me to upload videos to YouTube. Personally, I'm a very private and reserved person. But I realized that the message that I have and the thing that I'm trying to share with the world deserves an audience. And so I really had to get out of my own head and say that what I had to say was more important than me kind of wanting to be in the background or not pushing the message to the foreground. So some of it may be personality based, and then you have others who just naturally gravitate towards it. But most attorneys, I think, are problem focused, and they don't teach you in law school, at least the one that I went to, the value
Mm,
of marketing and really sharing your message. It's like,
mm,
this is how you research the law. This is how you present it in court. This is how you write a brief. But this really is a missing component in
mm.
legal education.
Yeah, exactly. And do you think from this point when you're starting, do you think a lawyer who's doing a law degree needs to learn sales and marketing on the side?
It is a must. I don't know that someone who is new to the practice of law today can really be successful without starting with some sort of social media or visual presence because you have people who have attention spans who are, you know, this short. And you have people that are on TikTok doing 45-second clips and getting millions of views. And I think it's just it's a necessary thing that you really must to really differentiate yourself and to reach the type of audience that you want. Because maybe your firm is not made for everyone, but how do people know unless they see you and hear from you?
Mm. And also, do you think if I build up that I become I start making videos and I think okay, uh, but then when I make few videos, I see they're like 2 views or 10 views, and I'm discouraged because you said there's somebody who's out there making 45-second video with millions of views. Why should I keep still making videos?
You have to make the videos for the people that actually consume the videos. And you have to also consider that on these social media platforms, the algorithm is pushing certain things. One, consistency. Are you on a consistent basis making videos? If you're not, the algorithm's not going to push it. Is it a topic that people are interested in? I don't think you should stop because the number of viewers is not in the millions. I think you just have to really be consistent and drill down on the topics and really not worry about who's watching because people are watching. Some of those engagements that you see may be paid engagements. So those millions of views could be that someone purchased those, or maybe they have a strategic partnership and they collaborated and borrowed someone else's audience. So you really don't know how they got there, but I think if you're consistent, you'll get there as well.
And I believe if you have a million views and you still have one buyer, that doesn't really matter. If you have 10 views and 8 buyers, that is great because you're speaking to the right audience. So I think
Exactly.
virality is very overhyped. So what do you say about that?
It is. I think virality is vanity metrics. What are your goals? Is your goal just to become a thought leader in that area? Is your goal to make sales? Is your goal to build your email list? So that is also, those are the types of metrics that you may want to look at when you're looking at numbers. If I have 10 engaged people that are always watching my video, and 7 of those are people that on a regular basis purchase from me, I'd much rather have that than have a million and not have any.
Yeah, exactly. So how important is that we understand the different funnels of marketing? And could you share your insights on that? What are the funnels? And if I'm a lawyer, how do I create those? And how do I convert from those?
Well, I will start by saying I'm not an expert on marketing, but I am an expert on finding people who are. As an attorney, when I first started, I tried to do all the things. I was doing my own bookkeeping, my own marketing. I was answering my own telephone. And over time, I had to really delegate some of that and focus and let people who work in their zone of genius do that. So when we look at the type of marketing, and it may be different depending on what you do, but I think you need one basic funnel to start out with. And that's going to be a very broad funnel in your niche.
Mm,
And what that funnel does is actually bring people into your world and give them a taste of who
mm,
you are. So
mm,
ours starts with, we do a lot from some of our referral partnerships when we're doing education. And we work with people that have, you know, that have strategic partnerships with us. If you've heard me speak about it, I talk about money teams all the time. Who is your
mm,
money team? These are
mm,
people that you're already working with, but they may be siloed. These are
mm,
accountants, bankers, financial advisors, other attorneys, because just because you have one attorney, they don't specialize in everything.
mm,
So a lot of our funnel partners come from our strategic partners. And so that one main funnel that starts with your intake that gets people into your world, that's where I would start. And I would start by engaging someone who does it for you if you are not an expert in that area, because it really takes you more
mm,
time and it may not be as efficient. And that doesn't have to be a full blown marketing agency. It could
mm.
be a VA or someone that works part time in your business to help you get that up and running.
Yeah. So Sherry, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna come to the delegation part in a bit. But there's something that you said which is very interesting to me, and that was strategic partnership, right? So there's a thing a lot of people miss out on, and I wanna get your insights on that as well. Suppose I'm just starting out building partnerships, and I know there's an accountant who gets a lot of footfall, right? So a lot of people come to him. I know he can refer some clients, or there's an aligned or parallel law firm does something else, but they do have a lot of clients, and I'm just starting out. What do I give them in return?
Start by trying to add value. Even before you approach that person, maybe support them. Subscribe to their YouTube channel, leave a comment on their LinkedIn page, subscribe to their newsletter. And if they have things that are in person, go to those things. Let that person know in that event how something resonated with you and really show how you can add value to their audience before you actually ask for something. One thing that I've done in the past as a young professional, I've offered to volunteer or help or provide a resource to another audience. I may come in, do a free training. I may offer a free service to somebody that I want to be a strategic partner with. Because if
Mm,
they're not familiar with me, I want them to see the level of value that I can give them and the
mm.
people that they serve.
Yeah, but again, I mean, this is a great advice because unless you don't show the expertise that you have, obviously nobody's gonna, uh, you know, agree on what you say. But how do I differentiate between a good partnership and a bad partnership? Because if I'm doing a free service to another, company, sometimes they try to take advantage of that, and I don't want that.
Some of it's going to be expectation. What are you expecting from the partnership? Does this person deliver on that expectation? Are they
Mm,
slow to deliver on that expectation? Is what they advertise or promote different than the actual product or result? And so some of that you're just not going to know until you actually get into it. But their public facing persona should meet the back end result. And so the short answer would be is, are they walking the walk the same as they're talking the
mm,
talk?
mm. Yeah, exactly. So Uh, now, moving towards the delegation part, I think this is one of the most important topics that I wanted to discuss with you. When you're starting out, you don't have a lot of cash to burn. So there's a cash flow problem. And you're thinking, okay, who do I delegate some stuff that's obviously redundant? So, what is the first thing you should delegate, and when you should know that you start delegating stuff?
Would start to delegate before you think that you're ready. Because in the beginning, you believe that by doing everything yourself, you're saving money, and you're really
Mm,
not. Because when you're trying to scale, it's impossible to do all the things well, and you can really get burnout. So even before you think that you need to delegate, you need to start thinking about delegating and start with some of the administrative tasks that do not require specialized knowledge. So if there are letters that in your business that you always send out to clients, for instance, we have engagement letters and letters of representation that go out all the time once we are engaged by people. You don't need a law degree to draft those. Anyone can draft those. So those are the types of tasks that you delegate initially. And you do it so that you can focus on actually business development, the actual work product itself. And I would get those things going as much as I could. And also looking at delegation as a profit center, because nobody told me at the beginning of my practice that it was a profit center. You look at it as an expense that I have to hire this
mm,
person and figure out how to pay them. But because we have an hourly billing model in my business, I bill my paralegals out at a rate above what I pay them to help me cover the cost of
mm.
overhead. So in some instances, it's a wash, and in some instances, it's actually a profit for the firm to have that person sitting there and assisting me.
Yeah, exactly. And if you are doing work that bills you, you get about 250 or 600. Some people even charge 3,000. You wouldn't want to do something for 20 that basically is a value of $25 an hour, right? So you really need to know exactly what you're making at the end of the day and how much you're basically saving time against the payment you're giving to somebody, even if you're using an AI. So the thing is that when you start delegating this stuff, do you think there will be any yeah, in any time that you run your law firm, in any instance, you can delegate sales to another team?
you must delegate sales to another team, but I don't think that you should totally abandon it because you are the best voice for your company. You are. Now, you don't always have to be the face of the company, but I don't think that you should totally abandon the sales portion. But there are parts of sales that are that you can automate and you can duplicate with someone else other than yourself. So depending on the type of law firm that you have, there are so many things that other people can go out there and do well for you to promote it and to bring business in, but you also need to be part of that face.
Hmm. And another question that I had was sometimes I hear that a lot of lawyers are going towards, even after COVID specifically, they believe that it's not necessary to have an office space. All we need is a virtual office, an address, a phone number, and everybody can just work for me remotely. So why should I pay rents and electricity bills and other things? Do you think that's a great strategy in today's time?
If you are in an industry that does not require in person meetings, then yeah, I think it's a great way to have time freedom, flexibility in your practice. But in my practice, it requires a physical space. When I'm dealing with estate planning, I am often dealing with people who may be advanced in age, who may not be technologically savvy. So jumping on Zoom or just sending links and emails back and forth is not the most
Mm,
effective way to provide great customer service. There are times when we send people to your home to execute
mm,
documents because you may not have a notary. You may be wheelchair bound. Maybe there is an instance where you've been hospitalized and we're meeting
mm,
family at the hospital to bring them documents because they don't have email. So it really just
mm,
depends on how you're trying to serve your clients. And that's part of that white glove experience that we really try to offer. It's not one size fits all. You know, you have some law firms who brag about being the largest law firm in the universe, but you cannot get the founder on the telephone. Well, you can
mm.
get Scherrie on the telephone. And we have people that actually will come out and do things at family reunions. I'm looking forward to the summer because we can invite the family reunions all the time to do presentations, have great meals.
Mm.
So it's really a good time for us. And sometimes having that physical space promotes the business. It promotes the partnership between us and our clients. And it really in and of itself is a marketing experience.
Yeah, but don't you think some people might think that having an office is also, it basically improves the trust of the client, and obviously it's kind of increases the value that you're offering because now they see you sitting in a pretty fancy office, and now you can show them that you're a big boss. So don't you think that works?
I think it does. There's something definitely to be said for credibility. Even when the pandemic first started and everyone was on Zoom, you had a school of thought that people that showed their background were more credible than people that
Mm,
blurted out. So if you
mm,
do have that physical space, some people equate that with success. They equate that with being more authentic and sometimes credibility. So it definitely does promote all of those things.
great. So Sherry, I will now move to the last section of this podcast. Do you believe in AI taking over most junior jobs in legal industry?
Would not say taking over, but I do believe that the legal field has felt the shift because now there are certain things that we could charge for 7, 8 years ago in terms of research that firms are not able to get that same type of billing. You know, you may
Mm,
have several hours of research that you physically had to do, and you can charge a client for that. Well, now if a client sees a bill and you have research 5 hours, what takes 5 hours with AI and the different drafting tools? So I think the ability for some entry level attorneys, paralegals, legal assistants, everybody who's on that lower tier, they've kind of felt the crunch in the job market.
mm,
even with the amount that's being offered for salaries.
mm, mm,
You don't have to be as competitive anymore, in my opinion, in some of those areas because there are so many things at those lower levels that AI is doing. So I don't
mm,
need as many legal secretaries. I don't need as many paralegals. And the ones that I do need, I may not have to pay them as much, or I'll just get me one or two superstars and pay them a
mm,
very, reasonable wage. And I still have the
mm.
same tools available to me.
Yeah. But then uh, a lot of times I've heard a lot of lawyers saying that actually my firm lost the human connection with the people because there was one guy who told me that he has seen a decrease in client, inquiries after we placed an AI voice agent because people do not want to talk to the voice agent. So how can we solve that?
Do not personally use AI voice agents. So, like, we do have a chat feature, even on our website, but we have live people 24/7
Uh,
responding to
uh,
that.
uh,
When you call, we have a 24-hour phone line, and we have live people 24 hours because I believe in the human connection. With what I do, working with estate planning and business planning, I have people that want to talk to real
uh,
folk. And we try to make sure that someone, a real person, is there because there are just so many nuances that someone may have that AI may not be able to interpret and get that back to our firm. So yes, white glove experience, human connection, that's something that sets you apart and really I think bolsters your credibility.
so those young, future lawyers who are listening to us today, they would be pretty scared because you said most entry jobs or entry level or starting, they want to, start in a law firm. They might be thinking whether I'm in the right degree or not. So do you think that's justified?
Somewhat, because now you have a world where you can do anything. We have more coaches and consultants than I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Mm,
So when you think about getting a law degree, you're not restricted to a courtroom. You're not restricted to just drafting deeds or transactional documents. What is it about you that makes you different? There are so many attorneys who are making more money as content creators and actually sharing the law on an educational basis than they are making in their law firms. So I think for those people that are entering the field of law, don't limit yourself to the traditional notion of being an attorney and going to court or just being transactional in your practice. What are some of the things that you can do to add value to the field of law?
mm,
And
mm.
consider it like that. And so it may not be a W-2 situation. It may be that you have some W-2 income and then you are a content creator or you're a consultant. You may be an executive. So there's so many different things you can do with your law degree.
Right. Sherry, there's a very big concern that I want to discuss. Suppose in 10 years' time or 15 years' time, a lot of senior lawyers are going to retire, right? Or they don't have enough energy to train more people, right? But the bottom people who are just starting out, they're not going to get enough jobs, right? Because of AI. Who's going to fill that gap, say, in 10 years?
I'm a strong believer that you create opportunities. And so you're always going to have someone who's entering the market and who's exiting the market. The question is, at which entry point do you arrive? So for some of those people that are retiring, it could be that the way that they entered the market may not be as relevant to the way that law is actually operating today. So in 10 years, how is the field of law operating? Are all the courtrooms closed and everybody's doing virtual stuff? And I just really believe that the practice of law itself will shapeshift and grow into a model that AI really cannot compete with because the basic need is going to always be there. the need for legal protections, the need for defense, for prosecution. Those things are always going to be there. So how do we rise to meet the challenge is going to be the question, I think, more so than filling the gap, because I just kind of believe that the gap is going to fill itself.
Yeah, and I think uh, it feels like that we are basically moving in the past, because at that time I remember, and I've read about it, that in order to learn something, you had to become a disciple of somebody. And in today's age, let's suppose I want to learn, I have done my law degree, I have no experience at all. Probably I have to work for free for a very long time with you to actually get to the point where you hire me. Will that happen?
About working for free. I've worked for free before to learn something. But maybe look at mentorship.
Uh,
And with the practice of law, very similar to the practice of medicine, I do think that there needs to be some sort of training or residency, and they operate totally different. But I don't think you necessarily have to work for free, but there are experiences. And then there are so many continuing education opportunities where if you did not specialize in a certain area in law school, that you can pick up afterwards, because you're not
uh,
relegated to just one field of law, and you can change that at any time. So maybe not work for free, but be a continuous learner.
uh,
Relationships. There are professional associations. Find verticals in your area where you can actually network with people. And those people that are part of your money team that you refer people to, what sort of opportunities are available to help them and add value to what they're doing? And those are also going to be learning experiences.
right. So, Sherry, you are you've been practicing billable hour model, and you say you also have a hybrid model where you have fixed prices. Don't you think AI has put a big dent on billable model and its dying model?
Not for necessarily what I do, because the value add. Um, there are things that we can do at a high level that AI just cannot do. You can't call AI up and say, I want to change this. A lot of what you get from AI depends on input. If you put garbage in, you may get garbage out, and it still hallucinates.
Mm,
So some of the information that you put in just may be an echo chamber. It's going to tell you what you're putting in. There are times that I may be testing something out with AI, and then I challenge AI, and they're like, oh, you're right. We totally missed that. And it's just, so you really have to have the discernment for how to use
mm.
it ethically.
And Jerry, to be honest, I sometimes feel that when we're using AI, it does give you a very polished output within like seconds. But then I have to go either back and forth with AI, or I have to put my own input and fix it. Do you think the efficiency gain that AI promises is real?
Do, because there are times that I'm doing a brain dump, and I will use a dictation for AI and just kind of talk to it like, hey, I'm trying to figure this out. These are the variables. Can you just give me an outline for what I just told you? And that outline, one, saves me the time from typing, because I'm the slowest typist on the planet. I do believe that. So some of those efficiencies are human things for people that can't type fast, people that may not have the best punctuation when they're trying to put thoughts together, things like that. So I believe there are trade-offs, and you have to really determine what you are using it for. I use it as an organizational tool a
Mm,
lot. If there's a case and I have several um, different legal theories that I'm trying to bounce, I will put in the facts. Like I'll say, hey, my client is this old. They're dealing with this. These are the legal cases. Prioritize these for me in terms of importance, or I'll say organize these in terms of the date that the court decided the decision. And AI can do that so much faster than I can. And so if it's an issue that I deal with all the time, and I have it loaded into a project, it's just a lot quicker. So those are some efficiencies that I really value with AI.
So, Sherry, I really appreciate you coming here today because you're a person's full of knowledge, and it's very hard to justify and get all the insights from you within one podcast. But I want to keep another full podcast on this topic. But before we basically close, I have one question that I wanted to ask, right? And a lot of people have this. 2026 was promised by all the AI companies that it would become agentic AI age, which means that agents will do tasks which doesn't need physical presence, right? But then after 4 years or 5 years, it's still hallucinating. It's still, you just called it a tool. You did not say it's an agent. Do you think we are going to see that in near future? It's just a fallacy that's been put there to get a lot of capital from the capitalists.
I'm going to always look at it as a tool, and it's one of the tools in a toolbox of other tools because it is man made. It's not a supernatural creation, it's not autonomous. The fact that it exists makes it a tool. And I think we just maybe need to reframe the conversation in terms of how we use it. Now, does the tool improve? We went from horse and buggy to a motorized vehicle. So I think over time, it will continue to evolve. It will get better, but I think that it will always be a tool and not a replacement.
Yeah. So, on that note, everybody who's listening, think AI as a tool. If you're in law degree today, I think gaining knowledge about the law that everybody speaks about is most important than just going on ChatGPT and asking everything. So you can only be replaced by the tool if you allow your brain to be used by the tool. Other than that, it's great. So thank you so much, Sherry, for coming today. It was a lovely conversation. I loved having you here, and I hope that you will come on my show again sometime.
Thank you so much for having me. I love these types of conversations. They are so needed. What you're doing in this area is awesome. And bringing different attorneys here for your different viewpoints, I applaud you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.